thanks everyone for coming in and joining. I know we've got potential customers in here, current customers, partners, and a lot of competitors as well. So hopefully you'll find this information useful, and we'll go from there. So one of the things that virtualization brings is, a whole new forest. You've got all these new things, and the one thing you want to do, especially when it comes to data protection and disaster recovery, is choose the right tool for the job. Because, we've all been doing something and it's like, if only I had that tool, I could get this job done the right way. And we've tried to use a different tool and we end up with something like this, where that obviously was not the right tool for the job. So what are the existing tools doing today? They're not doing the job, especially when you're talking about disaster recovery and data protection. If you look at traditional backup with, agents in each virtual machine, it's worse than antivirus on every machine, right? I mean, the I/O activity and all those types of things that have to take place. Trying to do a full recovery of a server is much more complex. You have to install an OS first. It can be expensive, and there's no guarantee of recoverability. If you look at some of the typical VMware backup solutions, the image-based solutions, some of them require that you run in the service console to enable all of their whiz-bang features. You get significant storage requirements because you are storing an entire image. And then you also have some limited recovery options, right? You're looking at it from an image level, but what about the applications and the items inside of that image? How do you extract those individual items out? And again, how do you guarantee recoverability of those virtual machines? So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and don't let it pass you by as you start virtualizing. Don't let it slip through your hands. So what Veeam is introducing is what we're calling vPower. And vPower stands for Virtualization Powered Data Protection, but it's also the underlying patent-pending technology that we've developed that allows you to run a virtual machine from a compressed dedupe backup file. And with vPower, we take all the benefits of virtualization as well as all the benefits of Veeam to bring those together to really give you vPower and truly virtualization-powered data protection. So image-based, working on snapshots, taking advantage of change block tracking in ESX4, with backup and replication, 2 products in one, running a virtual machine from a backup file, recover items from an image, as well as deduplication to help on those storage requirements. So we're calling it breakthrough technology. Again, several things that we filed patents for. We did that because, over a year ago as we were developing this technology, we knew what a game changer it was going to be, and we wanted to try to protect our intellectual property. And the main thing is running a virtual machine directly from a compressed dedupe backup file. Now, if you think about how you would normally start up something after you've recovered it, you have to go through this recovery process. You have to extract that entire image or all the data from whatever media you're storing it on. It can be on tape. We know that takes a long time. Even on disk, every vendor stores the backup data in its own proprietary format, which is not a problem until it comes time to, now you have to extract it out of that proprietary format in order to run the virtual machine or do a full recovery or test it or recover individual items. So all of those things can just take a significant amount of time. The other part of what we're looking at is being able to automatically create an isolated virtual lab. So the idea here is that you step through a couple of wizards and we'll automatically utilize your existing infrastructure, your existing ESX hosts, and create an isolated environment so you can run these virtual machines in that without affecting production. And those two different things there enable some key capabilities. Instant VM recovery, which is the ability to recover your virtual machine in your live production network, not utilizing the isolated lab, but bringing it up in your network in production with minimal downtime because you don't have to go through that extraction. Run it like that. Also, when it comes to application items, we have universal application item recovery, or what we call UAIR. So now think about bringing up a virtual machine and a set of virtual machines defined by an application group into this isolated environment, you can now go in and extract individual items out no matter what it is. SQL records, not a problem. MySQL, not a problem. Oracle, not a problem. Exchange, no worries. If it can run on VMware, if it can be virtualized, we can do application item recovery for that application, even if it's homegrown. And then finally, one of the things we talked about back in March is recovery verification. And when you take a look at snapshot technology and the idea of a crash-consistent backup, because you're taking a snapshot of a live running virtual machine, but when you recover it, it's powered off. So how do you know that when you power it on, everything's going to boot up okay? And that's what we introduced with Sure Backup Recovery Verification. That's what we're talking about there, is taking that application group through an entire boot sequence and verifying that, yes, everything that's stored in the backup file is good, and when you need to recover those virtual machines, they're going to run. So if you think about verify the recoverability of the virtual machines, instant VM recovery, and universal application item level recovery, those all work hand in hand. So this is the marketing slide of all the different labels that we're putting on everything. vPower with Sure Backup, Instant Restore, and Smart CDP. Smart CDP really talks about the fact that it's 2-in-1. It's backup and replication in a single product, single interface. It's not 2-for-1, it's 2-in-1. Sure Backup includes recovery verification, which is new with version 5. And Instant Restore includes the instant VM recovery as well as universal application item recovery. And these all talk to different recoverability options. So Sure Backup is about reliability. Instant Restore is about your recovery time objectives. How fast can you recover either an entire virtual machine, a file related to that virtual machine, or files or items inside of that virtual machine, giving you the fastest recovery time objectives possible. And of course, Smart CDP and replication is talking about recovery point objectives. How fast, how much data are you willing to sacrifice in order to be back in the event of a total disaster? So I'm sure many of you have seen screens like this. Power goes out, someone, the cleaning guy trips over the UPS cord, whatever, all the servers shut down, and now you got to take them through a boot sequence. You never know what's going to happen. Crash consistency, that's what we're talking about here. When you start it up, you could have any one of these types of issues. So that's what recovery verification is there to deal with, is take that virtual machine as an application group through an entire boot sequence, get it running in the isolated environment, and automatically run scripts and tests to verify, yes, this recovery point is good. And if you think about doing disaster recovery drills, or what you may have done in the past, it's like, oh yeah, we do quarterly disaster recovery drills. That's great. You've just verified one backup. What about all the rest of them? How often do you do those recovery drills? We actually did a survey and found that only 2% of organizations do regular recovery verification. 2%. And that's across 700 different organizations.
They're lying about it.
Yeah, the 2% are probably lying. So what Sure Backup Recovery Verification is going to allow you to do is verify the recoverability for every backup, every virtual machine, every time. And again, it's that whole entire boot sequence. And it's all automated. So there's a wizard. You set it up, you set your options. Once the backup jobs are done, run the Sure Backup job in the background. You get an email saying, yep, everything checked out, everything's good. Now you know that if you need to do an instant VM recovery or you need to do universal application item recovery, that you're going to be able to do it from that particular backup, from that particular point in time. And you do that every time. Not just once a quarter, not just once a week, every time. And it doesn't, the beauty part of it from my standpoint, I mean, obviously I'm a VM employee, right? But it doesn't affect your backup windows. It doesn't add any additional time to backup. And it doesn't require additional hardware staff. We're utilizing giving you the capability to utilize your existing virtual infrastructure. You don't have to go out and buy all new hardware and set up a whole, lab and do all these installations. Walk through a wizard, choose a host, choose a data store. We set everything up for you on your existing infrastructure. So what are the benefits? Benefit number one for recovery verification is keeping your job, right? How many times as IT professionals has there been an issue when your, server goes down? Okay, server's down, I got to get it back online. Now, what's the last thing you typically want to do? A full recovery. Why? Because you know it's painful. So as IT professionals, typically what we do is we'll troubleshoot the problem as much as we can because we know we don't want to go to that full recovery. We know it's going to take time and we've never tested it, so we're not sure what we're going to do about it. We're not sure if it's going to work. Recovery verification gives you that peace of mind to say, if I need to go to a full recovery, I've tested it, I know it's good. So some of the other features with the vStorage API for data protection, as well as integration with vSphere, 10 times faster, extremely fast backup times, change block tracking has really enabled much, much faster backups, thanks to VMware. Another part of Sure Backup is advanced VSS integration. We don't rely on VMware to provide volume shadow copy services for us when we're doing image level backups. So for Microsoft systems, we have our own implementation of our VSS initiator, and we've made several improvements and advancements throughout the years, and we're getting ready to add even more great things to our VSS with version 5. When you're talking about the vStorage APIs for data protection, one of the advantages is direct SAN access. Your backup server can be talking directly to your VMs at the SAN level without even having to go through your hosts. Or you can run it in virtual appliance mode and use the hot add functionality if you're running the backup server as a virtual machine. So we're taking all this backup traffic off the network. And of course, smart dedupe. When you have all these images and all this data, being able to understand what are the similarities in these images between virtual machines and a backup job, and only storing those blocks of data once instead of multiple times. So we're a source-based deduplication engine. We don't write it if we don't need to. So that's all about backup and recovery verification. What's this instant VM recovery thing that I've been talking about? Now go back to the example where the server's dead, and you're trying to troubleshoot the issue, and okay, I've got recovery verification, so I know that full recovery is going to work, but how long is it going to take me to recover that virtual machine in production? With instant VM recovery, you can start that virtual machine up from the compressed, deduped backup file directly into production in a matter of minutes. So it's not like you have to wait and run through this extraction process. It starts up essentially immediately. The advantage here is server goes down. Now instead of being afraid of doing a full recovery, I've already verified the recoverability through recovery verification, and I have instant VM recovery. Server goes down, not an issue. I can troubleshoot for 2 minutes. I'm not going to be able to fix it now. I need to get my users productive. Let's spin this one back. Let's spin this one up from backup, and I can take this other one offline somewhere else and determine the issue and get that delta data back. So when you think about recoverability and recovery options, this gives you the peace of mind that yes, my backup, my recovery will work, and yes, I can do it instantaneously. We talk about it as like running on a temporary spare. Everybody has one of these things in their trunk that can seem to get smaller and smaller and smaller, so that when you get a flat tire, you can put one of these little donuts on there, right? It gets you moving forward. You're going down the road, but you don't have your full performance. And that's the same idea with our instant VM recovery. You're back on the road, your users are being productive, but your performance isn't going to be the best because you're still running from this data store that's running in the compressed dedupe backup file. It runs, but it might not be, like that donut. You can only go 50 miles an hour. So using technologies like storage vMotion will allow you to automatically storage vMotion that virtual machine from our data store to your production SAN. So think of it like driving down the road and someone changing the spare tire for you without you having to stop. You continue moving forward, and all of a sudden, 10, 15 minutes later, you're back to full force, full speed ahead. Now, if you don't have storage vMotion capabilities, one of the nice things is that we include replication at no extra charge. So you can replicate that virtual machine from our data store to your production data store. Now, with replication, you are going to want to have some downtime because you want to stop the virtual machine in production, do one final replication to get all the changes, and then start it back up. It's the same as pulling into the gas station and getting your tire fixed. So you stop for a little bit, but you get it fixed quickly, you're back on the road, you're moving. So there's a lot of new capabilities that we're going to be able to provide with instant VM recovery. Another question that comes up to me, that gets asked me a lot, is what about my Exchange, Active Directory? How do I recover these individual items? Do I still need to use my legacy backup vendor to do these application-specific backups? And a lot of partners are the same way too. Our partners want to sell one solution. They don't want to sell multiple. But up until now, they really haven't had a choice, because image-level backup vendors haven't been able to provide an extremely good application item recovery. We're going to change that. Universal application item recovery is exactly what it means. It's universal. Any application, any operating system, as long as it's running on VMware. Go back to what I talked about earlier with the isolated environment. Bring a virtual machine up in the isolated environment, as well as its dependent virtual machines as an application group. So let's say I need to recover an Exchange email. I can start up my Exchange server, my Active Directory server, my DNS server, my web front-end server, all in this virtual lab in a matter of minutes, and then I can use whatever tool I want to go out and extract email. I can connect to it with Outlook. I can have a user connect it through Outlook Web Access. I can go in and use Xmerge. We're actually introducing a wizard as well that will allow Exchange administrators to step through a wizard and request to the backup team when they want to bring that Exchange data store, that Exchange server back online. They can go through and say, I need the Exchange environment from 2 weeks ago. That'll get us send a request to the backup group. The Exchange, once that's spun up, the Exchange administrator gets an email. He can go in, use our wizard, pull out whatever he wants. And that doesn't only work with Exchange, it works with SQL, it works with Oracle, it works with MySQL, it works with Active Directory. So we're really changing the game in regards to how you recover individual items from an application. Forget about application-specific backups. You don't need them. That's all I'm going to say on that. So that's, I didn't really talk about to those bullet points. But understand that you don't have to buy anything additional to get this functionality. You don't have to come to Veeam and say, I need your Exchange agent. I need your Active Directory. I need your Oracle agent. We're going to be able to, because of this capability, when you look at how we're going to be able to drive virtualization, one of the downfalls of virtualization has been the fact that I don't want to virtualize my tier 1 apps, because if I virtualize Oracle, how am I going to be able to back it up and recover it efficiently? How am I going to be able to do that? We're going to give you that capability, all from an image level backup. So taking a look at Instant Restore and the capabilities, the features and the benefits that we have in there, Instant VM Recovery, your best possible recovery time objectives and your highest SLA for every virtual machine that you're backing up. Universal Application Item Recovery, which is new in version 5. But we've also had our instant file level recovery for Windows, Linux, Solaris. We're expanding that to 15 different file systems now through an integrated wizard. So we've had fast file level recovery for over 2.5 years. We pioneered that technology. and we're expanding it and growing it further. A couple of new things that I haven't even talked about yet is instant indexing. What does that mean? For Windows files, for Windows servers, for Windows file systems, we're now going to be able to capture a snapshot of that directory information and create a catalog of what's stored in that image of the files. We then take that catalog and pass it off to a Microsoft search server that then gives you guest file search across multiple backup servers from a single Enterprise Manager interface. So user calls up and says, I need file A, I need file ABC. It's an Excel file. And you say, well, where is it stored? What's this, oh, it's on the S drive. It's like, okay, great, thanks. I have no idea what the S drive is. You have to go through group policies or whatever to figure out where does their S drive map to, what server is it on, what backup server is backing it up. When you're talking about image level backups, this is another, it's a key concern for our customers because they don't have the visibility to know exactly where files are stored. With being able to create that catalog instantly and pass it off to an index server, our backup server doesn't take the load for indexing. We let Microsoft handle that. The fact that we can grab that catalog almost instantaneously doesn't add any additional time to your backups. And now we pass it off. You can have multiple Veeam backup and replication servers running. One interface, user calls up, I need file XYZ. You type xyz.xls into the search interface, and it'll search across every backup server, and it'll tell you every instance of that file that you have available to recover. Again, all of this from an image level backup. We don't have to increase our backup times to allow and enable indexing. This is a big feature that our customers have been wanting, is being able to find what's stored in those image level backups. So we're introducing this with version 5 just for Windows file systems, but we plan on extending it to additional file systems and even applications as we move forward. So we're just getting started here. And of course, one of my favorite features, on-demand sandbox. Take this idea of the virtual lab. So far I've talked about using the virtual lab for recovery verification and for UAIR, for Universal Application Item Recovery. But think about other uses for it. You don't have to use it just for those two things. You can bring up your CRM application in this isolated sandbox environment and allow your developers to go in and do whatever they want. We never change what's stored in the backup file. So you can bring up that CRM application, might be 5, 10 VMs, however many it is. All permissions are maintained, and any changes that are made in that environment are gone as soon as it's shut down. They're not stored in the backup. So you never mess with the integrity of what you stored in that backup file. Think about what you could use these things for. I'm going to skip through these. Some of the different things you can use this for. Any restore point from either a full or an incremental, troubleshooting, testing, patch testing, development or test lab. You want to bring up a copy of your production environment right now, at how it looks right now, do a backup of all the servers that comprise that application that you want to bring up. Do a backup right now. Backup's done, spin it up over here in the sandbox. You're now running on a 10-minute-old copy of your production environment. Think if you're having an issue in production. It's not, the virtual machines are still running, the application is kind of running, but you've got some issues, and you need to troubleshoot. Wouldn't it be better to troubleshoot that application and what's going on over in an isolated environment where anything you do is not going to affect production? And figure out, okay, here's our issue, test it a couple of times by restarting things, and then you can go into production, make that change, and be confident because you've already tested it. So all of these capabilities is why this session was called the new standard for data protection. Because of the things that we're introducing in version 5 and vPower, these are the types of capabilities that have never been possible before from a VMware level image level backup. So, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about replication. So, there's two different types of what we look at for replication. Height availability, nice typo on that. High availability, in-house, near CDP replication. So you're concerned that you might have an issue on the SAN where you're storing your virtual machines. What happens if you have a SAN outage? Well, you can replicate those virtual machines to either another SAN or totally, direct attached storage on the same LAN, and you can do that a lot more often so that if something does happen to your SAN, you can instantly bring things up over here as a replica because it's there ready to go. It's registered on the ESX host, start it up, and not just start it up from the most recent replica. You can start it up from a replica that you did 2 hours ago, 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago. And then when we're talking about disaster recovery, let's move these virtual machines. Let's get a copy of them off-site. But let's do it in a manner that they're ready to run in that off-site location. So in an event of a true disaster, your production site, something happens to it, go over and bring them up over in your disaster recovery site. Now, a lot of people ask me, how does this integrate with SRM, or how does this compete with SRM? We don't want to compete with SRM. And when you look at the capabilities of what this provides, it's like replication for the rest of us. Okay? SRM is a great application, but it requires storage layer replication, which we all know is not the cheapest thing in the world. So I still recommend using SRM for your tier 1 applications, for those things where you absolutely can't have any data loss and you want to do that. Use SRM for your tier 1 applications. But guess what? Tier 2, tier 3, this solution is not that expensive. And because it doesn't depend on the disk, as long as the ESX host can see it, we can replicate to it. Local attached storage, direct attached storage. I don't recommend USB attached storage, but you can do that if you want. Replication for the rest of us. So Smart CDP, again, is part of our 2-in-1 backup and replication. All of this, everything I've been talking about today, is available in one product, one license, all this functionality. No extra charge. So, again, on-site or off-site replication. We still give you file level recovery from replicas. So let's say you're backing up the virtual machine once a day at night, but you're replicating it 10 times throughout the day. And you need a file that's been changed since the backup and the last replica. You can actually go to your replica and do a file level recovery from that replica. So it adds an extra layer of protection and an extra enhancement to your recovery point objectives that you don't get with just traditional backup. Oh, one more important thing, WAN accelerators. So if you're using a WAN accelerator, if you already have one, great, we work fine with it. If you don't, we just announced a partnership with a company called NetX. And they make a virtual appliance called Hyper-IP. And what that allows you to do is just download this software, install it as an appliance on hosts between the two different sites, do a little bit of configuration, and now you've just increased the availability and capacity of your current bandwidth. Take out all that latency. Speed things up. Make it run fast. The nice thing is that NetX has decided to go ahead and give our new customers free copies of that software. So check out our website, check out NetX booth. I'm very excited about this and what it's going to mean to our customers, because when you're talking about replication, you want to make sure that you have the best connection possible between the two, but we all know in real world situations that's not always possible. So bring in something like NetX for your WAN acceleration, take out that latency, and improve that bandwidth. Again, something else that's included in the product, no extra charge, centralized management. It allows you to federate your backup servers. You can have backup servers spread throughout your data center to get maximum performance, or you can have them spread out through your entire organization if you have remote office, branch office applications and approaches. All the data from all these backup servers roll up into one central web interface. So you can monitor your backups. You can monitor how much data each backup server is storing. And when I talked about the search capabilities earlier, it gives you the capability to search for individual files across all the backup servers. So it truly is a centralized enterprise management. We also have automation via PowerShell in our SDK. So if you want to automate different capabilities or different functions or make changes that aren't available in the wizard interface, you can do additional automation through PowerShell. So one of the last slides here, I know I've been up here doing a commercial, and I apologize for that, but I'm just that excited about what we're getting ready to do in version 5. And the reason that we use this slide up here, this isn't our roadmap. This isn't telling you what's coming in the next 5 years. This is telling you what we've done in the last 2.5 years. Since our version 1, where we introduced, the first company to introduce instant file level recovery from an image level backup. The first company to provide backup and replication in a single product. The first image level product that did inline deduplication. Adding ESXi support all the way back in July of 2008. We heard the message from VMware early on in 2007 when they introduced ESXi, and we knew it was the future. We knew it was going to be going away, and we all know now with the next major release of ESX, it's gone. No more service console. So we got away from using the service console as much as we possibly could, because that's not the future of VMware, and that's not going to be the future of your virtual infrastructure. Integrated file level recovery for Linux in version 3, back in February of 2009. Version 4, last year, this time. First image-based vendor to support the vStorage APIs for data protection, giving you direct SAN access and near CDP replications thanks to change block tracking. And then with version 4, introducing replication to an ESXi host. And now with version 5, and the additional patent pending technology that we're getting ready to introduce, we're taking all of this again to the next level. So we put this up here as proof that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, and we really are going to change things. We have over 10,000 customers and counting. We have seen just absolutely phenomenal uptake in our technology, because what I like to quote is a friend of mine in the UK, it does what it says on the tin. You download the software from our website, you get a trial key, point it to your hosts, back up a couple of VMs, do some recovery, it works. It just works. And that's what a lot of our customers say to us. It just works. And thank you for creating a solution that is easy to use and is dependable. But it's also a solution that you can count on, right? Know that you can recover quickly in the event of a problem or disaster. Remove additional load and potential source of instability on your production hosts. Know that it will work as advertised. Know that you won't outgrow it. I just showed you what we've done in the last 2.5 years. Think about what we're going to do in the next 2.5 years. We're not stopping. And know that you've made the best investment in protecting your data that's running on VMware. It's a great value. It's 2-in-1. We don't charge extra. There's no extra product to install to get replication. It's not 2-for-1, it's 2-in-1. All these things you get for no extra charge. Near CDP, sure backup recovery verification, universal application item level recovery, deduplication and enterprise management. All at a price of $8.99 a socket for the enterprise version of Veeam Backup Replication version 5. Yes, I just said the price. So what? You're going to ask me about it anyway. Per socket, $8.99 on the host. Back up as many virtual machines as you want. Back up as many applications you want. Back them up, replicate them, back them up. Doesn't matter. One price. because it's licensed by socket. And it is a solid investment. So with that, again, in summary, we're introducing vPower with sure backup, recovery verification, automated, instant restore with instant VM recovery, and universal application item level recovery. So that's what you get, available in October. Questions? So if you do have questions, let me go back. So if you do have questions, I do ask that you use the microphone there in the middle. Feel free. We'll do some Q&A here. Go ahead. Because I'm sure you all have questions. Although I've tried to answer the most common ones, like pricing.
You were talking about Active Directory recovery.
Yes.
Now, I got a situation, I have a lab, and we have an enterprise-wide Active Directory all over the world. Mm-hmm. Basically got a root domain, about 4 or 5 child domains. But I have, several root domain controllers virtualized, several of the other domains all virtualized. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had a situation where I needed to test some schema type updates to the Active Directory. Mm-hmm. So I had to get it all into the lab.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that was very, very, very painful.
I'm sure it was.
So my question is, what I'm hearing you say is that this product, I can do that, and you get past the USN rollbacks and things like that. And Microsoft says, you call them up, we don't support that. All we support is authoritative restores.
The interesting thing is, the founders of our company, and myself included, pioneered some recovery ability for Active Directory over 10 years ago. So we've been doing Active Directory recovery, in essence, for over 10 years. But that's utilizing some older technology. We're introducing new technology. And we understand and we know what we're doing when it comes to Active Directory recovery. So in regards to schema updates and schema changes, you can test it out in the lab. It doesn't matter because you're not making any changes. Once you power that down, it's all gone, right? If it works, great. Then let's do it in production. So it gives you that, you don't have to build it all yourself and do all this type of stuff. Back up your Active Directory tree, domain controllers, that compromise your entire forest. Bring all those domain controllers up in that isolated lab, and do whatever you want. And when it comes to recovering individual items, again, we give you that, we actually have a wizard that will step you through the actual users or user attributes to be able to recover those back into production. Any other questions? Feel free. Come on up, ask questions. As long as you're not, no, I'm just kidding.
If you're trying to use this as a backup and recovery or replication solution, mm-hmm. all in one, you're trying to get near real-time replication, where you can go down to like 5 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to run a backup while the replication process is happening, what happens during that scenario? We
don't recommend it, because now you're going to be overstepping on multiple snapshots. Typically, what our customers do is they will replicate during the day while the data is changing, and then they will set a window where replication is not occurring so that they can then do their backups. So because it's one product, you can schedule, you can do some smart scheduling in regards to, okay, I want to replicate as the data is changing, but once the data stops changing so much, then I'm going to stop replication, give it a backup window, and then pick up replication when it's done. So typically, you'll replicate and do that type of thing during business hours, mm-hmm. and you'll stop replication, do your backup, and then start it back up again.
Okay, so that's how you typically handle that.
Yep.
And then, what's the difference between local replication and backup then? Is it just that it won't truncate the replication part, won't truncate logs in Exchange, for example? Or?
Through our advanced VSS options, we can truncate on both backups and replicas. It depends on what options you choose when you set up that particular job. So you might want to truncate on backup and not truncate on replication. That choice is up to you. But From a local standpoint, the only difference between a backup job and a replication job is your target. So with backup, you're replicating to disk. You're backing up to disk. Your target is disk. Whatever disk your Windows server can see. With replication, it's whatever you're replicating to a host, an ESX host, and then it's whatever storage that host can see. Okay? When you actually go through the wizards, the only box that's changed between a backup job and a replication job is that target screen in the wizard.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
To restore individual item or application, it needs to be in a consistent state. So you use VSS for that. Mm-hmm. But does it require anything to be installed inside the virtual machine?
Does it require what?
Anything to be installed, any component to be installed inside the virtual machine, or you do it from the outside?
Correct. So for VSS, for how we implement VSS, we do it at what I say runtime. Okay. So when you run a VSS-enabled job, you do provide Windows credentials so that we can then, at runtime, deploy an executable, and then once it's done, remove it. So you don't have to go through and copy files to all your virtual machines and specific directories and do all that type of stuff. We handle it for you, but yes, we do require an executable to be placed there just for the time during the backup job occurs. But there's not a continuously persistent running agent on those Windows virtual machines. And again, it's all behind the scenes. And with version 5, we're making that even better. Any more questions? If you do have any more deep technical questions, one of our product managers, Anton Gostev, if you've ever been to our Veeam forums, you know Gostev. You can't not know him if you've ever gone to our forums. So he's here. He'd be happy to answer some questions as well. But with that, we're at about a quarter till. I don't want to take up the rest of your day. You probably need to go get some lunch and things like that. Feel free to stick around if you have questions, and thank you very much.